items we had to move. So technically we are at President's Executive Summary. But there was no executive session last several meetings, so I have no summary. So moving on to the consent agenda.
Move to approve as presented.
Seconded.
We have a motion to approve as presented and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to minutes of November 13th.
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
Motion made and seconded.
Mr. President, I have
Yes.
to recuse myself from voting since I wasn't present.
You could just abstain if you don't want.
Yeah, you just-
Okay.
You technically can vote on them because you're on the council. but
exactly.
If you feel more
Really?
comfortable.
Anyone
either way.
here? Okay.
You can vote on
I will not.
minutes
I will
if you were
abstain.
not present. All you're saying is
Oh,
you
no.
approve them, but motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to tax vouchers. We have voucher number 1127-23. Oh, I'm sorry. 2003 1127-01 to 2023 1127-02.
Move to approve.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Town Administrator's Report.
Good evening, Mr. President, Council, ladies and gentlemen. November 15th, the AAA Northeast held their annual Community Traffic Safety Awards event at the Crown Plaza in Warwick. At this event, the Portsmouth Police Department was one of only 2 municipal police agencies in the state to receive the Gold Award. The Gold Award is awarded in recognition for outstanding achievements and efforts to protect the citizens of a community. Highlighted during the award presentation were the department's traffic safety initiatives that they have implemented in Portsmouth. In addition, Officer Daniel Serena received a Traffic Safety Hero of the Year award for his outstanding work in traffic enforcement and prevention efforts for the town of Portsmouth. Also, in a recognition ceremony held at the Newport City Hall on the 14th, representatives from the U.S. Navy War College thanked the Portsmouth Police and other local police departments on behalf of the War College President, Rear Admiral Peter Garvin, for assisting in the annual International Sea Power Symposium that was held on Goat Island back in September. Local law enforcement agencies were recognized for helping coordinate the annual event, which featured, among others, the Secretary of the Navy, the Vice Chief of Naval Operations, and senior naval officers from across the globe. So I'll say it in Navy parlance, Bravo Zulu, Chief. That's a real good thing. Naval Station Newport will rename 2 streets in its military housing communities next month as part of actions directed by the Navy to replace names of Confederate State Navy officers from existing government-owned properties and facilities. In Portsmouth, Worley Street and the Melville housing community will be renamed D. Vartanian Street, honoring Master Chief Petty Officer Anna D. Vartanian. In 1959, Master Chief D. Vartanian was the first woman in the United States Armed Forces promoted to the grade of E9. Police, fire, public works, and EMA have been notified. Speaking of EMA, Rhode Island EMA has announced the implementation of crisis track disaster management software. The state is funding the implementation of this system and will make its use free of charge to local municipalities. The system will help state and local governments improve disaster declaration success rates, expedite damage assessment data collection, and promote interoperability throughout emergency management agencies throughout Rhode Island. Our emergency management director, Ray Perry, will coordinate the implementation of the system in Portsmouth. And then lastly, in regard to the winter season at Old Mill Lane, at the Old Mill Lane liquid natural gas injection site, Rhode Island Energy will begin work this week to refill the tanks and test equipment so that they're ready by December 1st. And that concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rayner. Moving on to resignations and appointments. We have 3 appointments. First, for the Economic Development Committee.
Move to reapprove. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Next, there's a vacancy and an applicant for the Harbor Commission.
Move to approve. Mr. I'm gonna mess up Carmen's last name.
Incentari.
Incentari.
Second.
Motion and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. and an applicant to the Solid Waste Recycling Committee.
Move to approve, Mr. Kittredge.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to new business number one, monthly finance reports. I would say Mr. Kilpatrick.
Mr. President, yeah, this was Mr. Kilpatrick's last report. As of the end of September, the town was 4 months or 33% through the fiscal year. Revenues are at 32% of total budget. Expenditures are at 34% of total budget, slight variance. That can be accounted for through encumbrances, and the primary drivers were debt service, civic support, and road paving. However, we expect this to reverse itself in November with the second quarter tax payments. And then lastly, the fiscal year 23 audit is nearing completion, pending a final review of the financial statements.
Move to receive and place on file.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. The next item has been moved to the high school on November 30th, this Thursday at 6 p.m., as has new business items number 1 and 2. So moving on to new business item 3, Harbor Commission recommendation regarding a civilian harbor master and the vote to change the commercial mooring fees from May 15 back to March 15, starting 2024. Ms. Brown.
Good evening. The Harbor Commission had a meeting on November 1st, and we made a motion. Now, I'm really proud of this one. That the Harbor Commission supports the town council's exploration of the feasibility of hiring a civilian harbor master together with the resulting changes to the harbor master's ordinance and office, and such a hiring would entail. It was seconded by Josh Parks, and a vote was taken, and it was unanimous. As far as the moving the commercial mooring fees back from May 15th to March 15th, this is a situation that was recommended by the harbor master to us to change the harbor master's ordinance for this. I believe that it's all about the billing and everything. It brings everything together so that it's not willy-nilly, and it makes more sense for the harbor master's office. So that's what we're requesting.
Does the date, the March 15, May 15 date, is that part of the ordinance, or is that at the discretion of the council? In other words, do we need to schedule a hearing?
So I think we'll need to make an alteration to or amendment to the ordinance.
Okay, so an appropriate action would be to schedule a hearing,
Public hearing.
public hearing.
The only issue with that is our next meeting.
It
Well,
would
we can do
be
it on the
in- It
11th.
would be in January.
You can't get it done before the 11th, right? You only have to advertise it once. Or do we
Well, the
have to-
situation with that is that we want to implement it if we possibly can for 2024.
Right.
We only have to advertise it once.
Okay,
So we can advertise it once between now and the 11th? You sure?
between now and,
December.
December 11th.
Well, it had to be, between now and the.
Okay.
Technically the 4th or 5th.
It could technically get advertised in Thursday's paper.
Okay. It's not something that's earth shattering.
right, that's
Right,
correct.
right.
So.
Yeah.
I would make a motion that we advertise a public hearing for the 11th to change the date of the commercial mooring fees from May to March.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Abby, can you read the motion you guys passed
Oh, sure.
again?
Sure.
Or just say you're in favor of going civilian or not, because it was
It's
a word salad a little bit.
I understand, but it was written by a maritime lawyer.
I know.
I didn't want any
It's
mistake.
the salad.
I'm sorry, but I
That's
was
okay.
very, very proud of that. Thank you. Okay. Okay. The motion was the Harbor Commission supports the town council's exploration of the feasibility of hiring a civilian harbor master together with the resulting changes to the harbor master's office and the harbor master's ordinance that such a hiring would entail.
Got it. So you would like us to go forward to see if it's feasible and
Correct,
work it into the ordinance. Thank
correct.
you. I appreciate you rereading that.
That's okay. And thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to new business 4, CRMC meeting notice. This was an item requested by
Levesque.
Mr. Levesque,
And he's not here.
who is not here. He
So-
could not be here.
And are the DeMellos here? Either one? Yes. Mr. DeMello,
Yeah, please.
good evening. Good evening.
Thank you for coming.
I'm going to paraphrase from Mr. Levesque. It was short notice on our part. So he just wanted to confirm that none of the lateral hazards were being blocked by anybody. Sure. So, and based on your layout, I don't think it is. I don't think CRMC would allow that anyways.
Exactly. That is correct.
So unless you're tall like yourself, most of us will be able to get underneath the dock at high tide.
Pretty much good.
Yeah.
She will. No, but, it's pretty much, I think the average is around 6 feet, I think it is.
Right, yeah.
So,
Okay.
so there we go.
Yeah.
That is correct.
And you're 6'2", so.
Last thing I want to do is, take anybody's rights away from using the beach.
No, and that was his only concern, and because it was so short noticed, and I apologize, because I'm sure you got it at the last minute and you weren't able to get,
And I was already sitting up there and fighting rush hour,
okay.
but I'd rather make sure everybody's happy with it, not. having-
apologize for
We
that.
appreciate you coming out.
But I think that was the main question as to whether or not the lateral access was going to be blocked.
That's right.
And I'd hate to see it delayed again since the next meeting is.
Tomorrow night.
So,
Do we need a motion? I don't know.
require a vote?
No,
I think it was just hearing.
CRMC's already approved it.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
But I do have one quick question. Will there somebody be notifying them? That
We will contact.
we're
them
okay with
first
it?
thing.
or-
We'll contact them first thing in the morning, letting them know that the council has no objection.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
taking the time.
Thank you for coming out. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Hang on, Mr. President.
Yes,
Ms.
Mr. Hanlon.
Reaper, there's a question online. I don't have Zoom open yet. There's 4 questions online. Oh. Okay.
Moving on to new business number 5, request to have all town committees make a yearly presentation to the council. Councilmember Gleason, this is your item.
Thank you. Going back a ways, I'm not sure that we did this on a routine basis, but having myself started on a committee in 2004 and working my way to being a town councilor now, which I hope other people will do. We could use some help. My basic thoughts were back then and now is we should know what people are doing on the committees. We appoint them, but in a lot of cases, I can't tell you what people are doing on these committees. And I think that they would like to tell us what they're doing, get some ideas from us. Are they headed in the right direction? And that's the whole idea behind asking them to come forward and make a presentation to us once a year. I don't think we have as many people signing up as we have in the past, and I'm hoping that that changes by, promoting some goodwill between all the committees that we have here in town. So ask for your support and moving forward with this. Personally, I'd like to see the Solid Waste and Recycling Committee come before us. I have no idea where they stand on the curbside versus transfer station issue, followed by the Economic Development Committee. I'd like to know what that committee is doing in town as well, other than getting in the car and hopping in. I think we all in town should know.
Mr. Ryan.
Yeah,
Dr.
I
Ryan.
think, definitely better communication between the committees and the council is a good idea. I would make it voluntary, though. The committees are made up of volunteers who are not paid, and to, require them to regularly create a report and then have to deliver it to the town council is, essentially making them do extra work for free. The purpose of having town council liaisons as the committee is so that we are the avenue of communication. And certainly I know Ted Peets has given presentations to the council on his thoughts on a number of different issues. So I think maybe it would be, a good suggestion but I would make it voluntary. We have enough trouble recruiting people for these committees and to impose extra work on them, I think would not really encourage them.
Ms. Abbott?
You bring up a good point. Isn't that kind of the role of the town council liaisons is to report back to the council on what the
Theoretically.
committees are doing?
If I may, it is and it isn't in the sense that as Mr. Gleason is seeking some sort of, if I don't want to put words in your mouth, but here's what this committee is doing. But just because, I mean, I've been at EDC meetings, other folks have been we don't have it on our agenda here to, you know, council liaisons report, right? I always look at it as all of us are responsible to the public. These offices that we hold are up for election every 2 years. Public can vote us in or vote us out. People who are appointed to committees should be responsive to the council. It's our job to make sure that they're functional, fully staffed, if they need more people, all that sort of thing. I think, how many committees do we have? We have quite a number,
A lot.
20.
About 26, 27.
So with roughly 2 meetings a month, not counting budget season, that would be 1 presentation per meeting all year. It's a lot of presentations, but each committee, when they meet, is supposed to take minutes.
Right.
Perhaps a written, if they want to come, they're always welcome, I think. But perhaps a written annual report, which could be for some a comprehensive written drafted thing, and others perhaps just here's a collection of our minutes and what we've discussed over the year.
I think that's part of the next agenda item.
Yeah, that's.
I'm just saying, look at the next one.
There you go.
I think we owe it to the public to let them know what our committees are working on. Whether it's in a written format, which it has been in the past, or we just get a volunteer. I mean, we don't ever ask the juvenile hearing committee to come before us, because that's kind of a separate unit by itself. But you may find that the chair of each committee, I mean, I'm not saying they have to drag the whole committee in here. One chair, together with a liaison to the committee, could present. And no, are we headed, on these committees, there's always a question, are we really doing what the council wants us to do? You know?
I see, I push back on that in terms of it's not what the council wants them to do. It's what they, as the working group, would request of the council.
What they want to bring to us.
Right.
It depends on the charge of each committee, though.
But they're all advisory committees other than planning board, zoning board.
Well, juvenile, for
juvenile,
example,
yeah,
some of them have it.
Right.
And I think my personal opinion, the ones that have autonomous decision-making power, we appoint members to it, but they don't necessarily answer to us. So I don't know that I would, I mean, they're, again, always welcome. But I don't know that would require, for example, the zoning board to report to us once a year. I don't think that's appropriate.
I mean, I think it's appropriate to have dog park, agricultural, EDC, solid waste, recreation.
Most
Committees,
of the 26.
Yeah. Just a simple 1-page report that would go into that annual report that we used to have. And I think that would suffice.
Yeah, it'd be posted on the town website.
But I get where you're coming from, Mr. Gleason.
Yeah.
There's occasionally you're looking and go, where did that come from?
Absolutely.
And people would want to know.
Yeah.
Do we still have 26? I thought we narrowed them down.
No,
So,
Some of them may not be highly active, but
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll make a motion that we ask the all town committees, with exceptions of the juvenile hearing board, the planning board, the zoning board, the obvious ones that should not be ahead of us,
canvassers.
to voluntarily present their, an update to the town council.
When would you do that? End of fiscal year?
Starting in January.
Okay.
before we get
Summarizing
into
the
budget
previous
season,
year. Yeah, I think that's reasonable. Sure.
typically the annual report was done in the
Right,
February.
they already
timeframe.
post minutes, so
Yeah.
they could just summarize the
Right.
minutes. I mean, that'd be fine.
Second,
We have a motion and a second for voluntary annual presentation. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Moving to item number 6. This is the, again, Mr. Gleason, your item on the annual report of the
Okay,
committees.
rather than jumping the gun, we could ask Ms. Repa about this one because we have had a brief conversation, myself and her. And Dr. Ryan has hinted at, if you know where to look on the website, there are some reports in there, but they might not be there on a regular basis. And part of the problem with the reports, I'll be upfront, is I think people would rather come in person and speak off the cuff than sit down and write on a piece of paper what the committee has done. My own personal experience.
So it depends on the person.
Yeah. It
does depend on the person.
If you don't like being out in front of a crowd, you might not want to give it.
Plenty of people would say, here, have something in writing. Don't make me-
Exactly. But sometimes people, it's just hard, as Ms. Repa pointed out, it's hard to get them to comply to that. So maybe they need a little transcribing, a little secretary to work with them. I think that we have in the past produced an annual report, and I think it was a good thing for letting people know what we're doing here. You know? But I'm open to any suggestions or ideas, whether you. Mr. Rayner looks like he wants to.
Yeah, the annual reports are still completed, albeit we're a little behind. COVID knocked us back, so getting the reports has been difficult. So obviously tied to the previous motion, that would make putting the annual reports together much easier because we won't be chasing down information, and that would help us quite a bit. But we do have them; they are online, making more visible. And Barbara did a really good job for this.
I guess the question would be for Ms. Repa, when would you like the reports so that you can put them together?
Right. I'd asked that earlier, so.
Well, I try to get the information. I ask for the information at the end of the fiscal year. And I try to get it within a couple months because I know that it's difficult for people to go back over the
Right.
year. Everyone knows I think that it's coming. I don't know that everybody loves providing it. And then I usually try to send out another reminder for those who haven't provided it. So it doesn't still always come through, but that's how I do it. And then there's the process of me putting it all together into a readable format that's consistent because I get it in all types. So yeah, if I can get it within a couple months after fiscal year end, it's great.
So that would mean we go back to Mr. Gleason's previous motion and make it reflective. It needs to be in by 9/1 of the September 1st.
1, yeah.
Does that work?
Oh, yeah, that would be fine.
Okay. That gives them in July. Unfortunately, it's July and August when most committees don't meet, but
But
By
that would
then.
give them, that would mean they have plenty of time on their hands to
Right.
write a report.
They could do it on their vacations.
Maybe report's not the right word. Kind of intimidating
Summary.
Yeah,
Summary.
Outline of,
Yeah, just a summary outline. As a suggestion to Ms. Repa, reaching out, sending correspondence to the committees, asking if they aren't forthcoming, asking if they need help to prepare it. Not that you or anybody would help them actually prepare it, but sometimes just by asking if someone needs help, you find out what the roadblock is, why there's an issue. And maybe that could help resolve things. We do have a motion.
well, I think we need to clarify the motion.
Yes.
Do we already vote on?
No,
I think it just needs to be clarified for Mr. Gleason's motion that they're due by 9/1
by September
Right.
1.
after the close of the fiscal year, previous fiscal year.
Or put that a formal motion?
No, I'm just asking.
That
you to
was
amend yours
clarification.
with that.
Oh, for the previous.
Yeah, we haven't
discussion.
voted on that yet.
That's correct.
Yeah, we did. We voted on.
Yeah, we voted
five.
on
Okay.
We
vote-
voted on five.
Right.
So this would be a separate motion.
So
Right.
separate motion to request that all committees have a summary into the town administrator's office by 9/1 following the close of the fiscal year. So that would mean the next one would be due on 9/1/24.
Seconded.
Motion made and seconded.
Go ahead.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion passes. Mr. Hamilton?
I was just gonna make request that Mr. Rayner get
Spare time.
in his spare time, get the annual reports for 19 to 20, 20 to 21, 21 to 22. Up as judiciously as possible.
Will do.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Is
much.
there a second? It was just a request. You don't need a
I don't
motion.
think we. need to vote on that. Moving on then to new business item number 7, discuss and prioritize legislative priorities. Has my name on it, but I didn't. Yeah, this is collectively our.
That's just because Mr. Aguirre is not here.
Thank you. So we have our, a draft that's been circulated.
Well, number one's mine, so I'm just requesting the same request we put in last year for the state government in Smith Hill to return some of our taxpayers' monies back to us in the form of general revenue sharing. I came up, this year, I believe it's $440 million surplus, somewhere in that neighborhood for the state.
Yeah, they're not anticipating it to be
39
that
million.
high this year.
Right.
They didn't anticipate it last year either. So I'm asking for $39 million to be split. So that's $1 million per town, but then split by the population of each town. So obviously Providence would get more than Portsmouth, Portsmouth would get more than Little Compton, but it would be what former Governor Raimondo had promised way back when to help lower property taxes for citizens of every town.
Yeah.
Returning that revenue sharing that was taken away in 2008 and 2009 would help the residents and help budgets in every town. And since they've had over $1.2 billion in surpluses over the past 4 years, there's money in the budget for them to do that rather than other projects.
I wholly support that. I was on the council in 04 through 08, so I remember how useful that revenue sharing was to the town. It should be restored.
Just a question I have, Mr. Hamilton has hinted strongly that that's his last year's request, and obviously we haven't heard from it. Are there other ones from last year that we should be reconsidering? I didn't have time to pull up the list, I'm sorry.
I think we captured the next two. The planner put in the priority related to the accessory dwelling units. As you know, that in January, there were a slew of bills passed. I'll let Leah discuss. There you are. No offense, I didn't see it when I bought.
This point, we skipped the mind.
I know. There's a little bit of history to House Bill 6082 sub A, as it was close to being passed this past June, and it did not. So we reverted back to what was passed in June of 2022, which was very ambiguous. There could be the potential for Sakarchi to open up his 6082 sub A bill in January of 2024. There's 30 days for the legislature to pass it. So it could pass in January, but if not, the planning, town planning community would really like and advocate for the re-emphasizing and clarification of accessory dwelling units. We don't currently have language for it in our zoning ordinance, but as you know, we talked about it at last town council meeting, we are implementing all the changes related to the legislation that passed in June, and we are rewriting our zoning ordinance in general.
Any other comments?
So, but I did pull up last year's, if you want me to read through them real quick, I'll just give the highlights. Reinstitute general revenue sharing, which we just covered. Institute funding available, increase, excuse me, not institute, increase funding available to schools. Support an alternative LNG supply to Whiddick Island. I think we still would like that.
Oh, yeah.
Increase the threshold for prevailing wage from $1,000 up to $100,000. Broadband service and port service by Cox. That is being addressed as of now. Pressure RODOT with issues at East Main Road, especially the intersection of Clements for sidewalks on Sprague Street. I think we're gonna hit that one in 3 days.
In a couple of days.
Work with RIDEM to open more Portsmouth waters to shell fishing. I think that's happening slowly but surely, but it's not. I mean, a lot of it's dependent on what happens out of Fall River.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Right.
Um,
And Rainbow.
Portsmouth support of the legislation to create a special education ombudsman office at RIDE. I don't know if anything ever happened with that.
Not aware that it did.
Enact cannabis education to driving school curriculum, in which Mass has done. I don't think they did anything with that at the State House. Codify rules for implementing Financial Data Transparency Act. And the real estate conveyance tax law is 4425(1). Municipalities retain 47.83 of the real estate conveyance tax, which is $2.03 per 500 collected. The state retains 5.17. So I think we would like that reversed. Since the towns do all the work, but the state gets the lion's share of the conveyance tax.
And that's what was on the list last year.
That was
Right.
last
Um,
year's. That's
With regards to that one, they changed the law so that anything over $800,000, the state gets an additional $2.30 on anything over they tax it on that, but we don't get a share of that money, anything over 800,000.
It seems like we should keep some of those on the list.
That's up to you.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be my suggestion to go through them,
We
eliminate ones that are completed, which are a few. And just add to the list with a note that they're from last year.
Yeah, so I mean, there was broad, if not unanimous consensus last year on the priorities list.
Yes,
So,
East Main Road included.
right, so I see no reason to not keep last year's items that were not enacted added to the current year's, these current items. If that's the consensus of the council.
I would agree.
Yeah, there's actually no votes taken with on the discussion with the legislators, but it was just a presentation to them.
Yeah.
I said the only one that I know that has somewhat been acted upon is the broadband, since fiber optic is slowly making its way south.
Yep.
Maybe you'll see it in a couple of years, Mark.
It's hit Macquarie Lane.
It changed my download speeds from 75 to 600 megabytes a second
Nice.
and uploads from 25 to 500. It only took the kid 4 hours.
So if you're on Zoom, we'll see your face in high def.
High def, this is what you need.
Dr. Ryan, did you have your hand up? No. Input from members of the public, Mr. Fitzmaurice, you appear eager to address this.
Thank you, Mr. President. Larry Fitzmaurice, 50 Kristen Court. This will be quick. I do this every year. I'm Don Quixote tilting at windmills, and I recognize that. But it is a serious problem, and that is the aid to education distribution to the town of Portsmouth. There's a recent, somewhat recent study that was published in the Portsmouth Times shows us at essentially dead last in per capita expenditure under this program from the state. I see absolutely no reason why that should be the case, but it's consistent. And the funding formula for the students is getting the same results as the last one. So we can expect roughly about 200,000 to 250,000 every year that is not in the distribution from the state and is therefore added on to the tax bill every year. So we're past 10 years and roughly $2 million worth of expenditures tacked onto our school, on our taxes already. So I would like to see somebody to try to do something about this. I've mentioned it and it probably, hopefully there's no relationship, but it just gets worse every year. So we have to break the problem where we're last in this process, and that should be done. We've talked about this with the representation to the assembly in the past. It just seems to get worse and worse. So I'd like to add that on. I know it's a school issue, but remember, you guys are the ones that are levying the
Yeah,
taxes.
no, I think we
I-
can, go ahead, Ms. Abbott.
Sorry, I do think it's always included in our
Yes, it is.
legislative priorities. I don't know if we include in our list or the school committee included, okay,
Both.
on both, but
Yeah.
yes,
We
agreed.
always ask.
Is it in our side, on this side?
We did last year, yes.
These are just the ones that people sent in to me. We hadn't gotten, this is why they're discussing them now, so.
Right, but sooner or
We
later,
will
that
include it.
always gets added, because
Yeah.
I'm making a suggestion.
no,
Ladies
it's
and
just
gentlemen,
a
thank you.
suggestion, we all. approve
And
it.
since it was on last year's list,
Yeah.
and we've just talked about having those
Yeah.
that didn't get past last year on this year, it's on this year's
Good.
list.
Thank you.
Ongoing issue.
Ongoing issue.
And this is the point in the meeting when I remind whoever cares that the legislature adopted a law early 2000s saying that they would impose a tax cap on the municipalities, which they did, as a quid pro
we
quo,
ever.
their words, as a quid pro quo, would equally fund, that's 50%, local municipal school costs.
Which
And
they
we've
never
never
did.
gotten over 20%, let alone 50%. Right now, we're closer to 10 or less percent.
Well, then I'll give you homework.
Okay,
Find where that law is and where that statement was made and pull it out and include it with the legislative priorities. I know it's gonna go nowhere, but let's do it.
I know exactly where it is and I'm happy to do that.
All right.
But it doesn't. hurt to
Homework, I
remind.
love it.
Yes, no, absolutely not. Well, just like the lottery was gonna pay for education back in 1972 or whenever it was. How's that working out for us?
Yeah, it's,
Into the black hole, the general fund.
yep.
Any other comments on that? Otherwise, I will move on to the budget.
I'd like to
timeline.
just finish the conversation. Want to speak first?
Go ahead.
Okay.
You go first.
Mine's sort of a side issue. We talk about the frustration of dealing with, not our representatives, but upstate on a regular basis. Next year, and I just throw this out for people to think about, I think that we as a council should have our own priorities of things that we would like to accomplish next year. Things that we've talked about forever, it seems like. I'd like to see fields on the 3S property. Where are we gonna put our new, what do we call that game?
Pickleball.
Pickleball courts.
That's in the next.
You know,
agenda.
Yeah,
just,
that's
Yeah.
on today's agenda.
Just things that we have talked about here, and people change and the thing kind of get lost in the shuffle. And I'm sure we all have different ideas about things that we'd like to accomplish. And before you know it, it'll be November of 2024. And things may change. Maybe we get reelected. But there are some things I'd like to put together and submit a list in January.
I think we sort of do that when we discuss the town administrator's priorities for the year. So I think we can probably do it at the same time since we have to work with the town administrator to actually make anything happen.
Okay.
But agreed.
Lee?
I just would feel that if I don't speak up on this matter, it might get shuffled into nowhere lands. But one of the bulleted points on this legislative priority list is how our workplaces here in town hall and the type of personalities that we deal with, and the need to maybe look at how we as employees are human beings, and the need to consider looking at ways to limit, reduce how we tolerate the emails that come in. We are human beings, and I can only speak for myself that I really like working here, and I try to answer to the best of my abilities every email, every phone call that comes in, and the demeaning, defamatory,
Yep.
sometimes slanderous, foul-mouthed language that comes from certain individuals has got to stop, because it is very detracting from the efficiency and productivity in the workplace. And I'm sort of at my limit of being able to tolerate it. And I have thick skin. People can tell me to go screw, and that kind of bounces off of me after being in public service for over 2 decades. But I'm watching other people not take it as I can, and it has to go somewhere. And I'm asking maybe our state legislatures can look into it a little bit. Maybe they can prepare some sort of legislation. I kind of like am stuck in a corner now. We all get those emails. They're annoying as hell, especially when you turn your computer on at 8:30 in the morning and see them. And, somebody just walked out of here a little while ago, giving us all the bird. I mean, come on.
It's unfortunate that civil discourse has gone in that direction. The age-old adage, you get more flies with honey, doesn't seem to stick anymore. And
Still true, though.
I apologize for the people who come in, because most of their ire is directed at the 7 people sitting up here and not necessarily at you.
Right.
Or the town employees. But there is a fine line between legislating behavior and free speech. And that's the tough part.
I understand that.
If I may, there's also a fine line, but a line between free speech and harassment.
Mhm.
And the challenge of you and Mr. Rayner is to have clear actions that can be taken when a line is crossed. And I don't know if state legislative action would help that. It may. There's all sorts of labor and employment laws that provide both protections as well as limits. It would be, I think, worth having the conversation with our area legislators about what.
I appreciate you just acknowledging that.
Would it infringe on people's First Amendment rights if you had a little function button on your computer that if any communication that came to you began with a string of obscenities, you could hit delete and send, please resubmit your request without obscenities if you have an issue to address.
Counselor, and I appreciate what Leah is doing. She's echoing the frustration that we're all feeling.
Yep.
This is, it's reached a fever pitch in Portsmouth, and I don't know how to handle it. We are getting harassed on a daily basis now, and we're not getting any relief. I've turned over thousands of emails to our chief of police. They've been turned over to the state police. They've been turned over to the attorney general. There's no relief in sight. We have to read this disgusting trash Because in this disgusting trash, we'll get APRA requests. And if we don't answer the APRA requests, we get reported to the same AG that won't help us. And then we'll get an Open Meetings Act violation, or we'll get some other kind of slap on the wrist.
So you're not allowed to ask
So
for
we
research.
have to go through these. We have to go through these emails. It would just be nice if we could have a conversation with our legislators. What protections are there offered to people? It is, I have come to this council respectfully many times over the last couple of years, telling you how difficult it is
Right.
to recruit and retain top quality, very professional, highly educated people. And this is what they're dealing with lately. And I realize that it is a microcosm of what's going on in society right now. I'm not deaf and I'm not dumb to what's going on. Social media and the relative ease of firing off an email from your bedroom or your kitchen has made it absolutely easy to get under the skin of the people that are trying to do the town's business and do everything right. And if we can just have a conversation with our legislators who will champion this conversation with the state departments to try to get some relief. Nobody comes to work in town hall and takes the salaries that they're paid, the hours that we're expecting them to work, to have to put up with that day in and day out, and it's getting worse.
Ms. Abbott?
Thank you for bringing this up. I think it's a big concern. It's very sad to see this happening in Portsmouth. You know, people's First Amendment rights, in my mind, kind of end when harassment and defamation begin. I don't think it's not a free for all, and it shouldn't be. I think I agree with you, Rich, that we should work with our legislators to see if there's avenues to help manage this a little bit. I also think that we should explore things that we can do locally within our town ordinances. I think, and I know we've pursued options in the past, but allowing for defamatory signage and toilets to lay on the side of the road kind of enables this kind of ridiculous and nasty and inappropriate behavior. So I think it would make sense to, in addition to state avenues for state laws, that we look at any possible options within our town ordinances to kind of curb some of this behavior, because allowing any of this that all our kids see and everyone sees and they drive by, I think it empowers the people that are behaving this way, and makes them feel like it's tolerated and allowed. So I would pursue all options, because it's not appropriate. No one should be harassed like that at work. I know public service is a little bit different, but at least professionally, none of us sitting up here have to tolerate that on a professional level, because it wouldn't be acceptable.
Thank you.
I mean, this issue would really require a legal remedy, so maybe we can encourage our state legislators to broach this topic with the Attorney General to find out what is permissible within the First Amendment. I mean, any request that a responsible person submits to the town can be phrased with normal language.
Yeah.
There's really, the harassment, the obscenity factor is completely unnecessary. There should be some mechanism of requiring it, that it not be submitted with any serious request. I'm just wondering if we can clarify that with the Attorney General, perhaps.
Yeah, I agree. And on that note, like, what would happen if one of us showed up at the DMV and was treating a DMV employee like that, screaming profanities at them? I don't think it would be tolerated,
Probably
honestly.
be escorted out.
You would
We
be
would.
escorted out. So we shouldn't have to tolerate it either.
Chief, I hate to put you on the spot. Can I ask you a quick question? Over the past 6 to 8 months, I've seen a relatively new charge people are being charged with, called aggressive language, or something to that effect, where just yelling obscenities at somebody in a domestic abuse situation has had people removed from their homes, or even some road rage incidents where they have become aggressive either towards a police officer or somebody else. Can we utilize any of that statute towards individuals here if they're physically, I don't know, assaulting our town employees with verbal language?
Yes, if people are in person. So under this disorderly conduct statute, it'd be violent, threatening, tumultuous behavior. But that's in person. It's not by email. It's not by any other means, but it would be someone in person. So when you've seen arrests that are made, it would be when it's someone in the house associated with domestic, or when it's someone on the street for some sort of road rage incident where they leave their car or they do something violent, threatening, tumultuous behavior in the roadway. So that's when you've seen those disorderly conduct arrests associated with it.
So in the least, if that behavior happens here, our
Correct.
staff should be calling your staff.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Another question. So maybe there just isn't the right legal avenue for this yet. But in school, for example, if children behave this way toward each other, it would be considered cyber harassment and they could get
Cyberbullying.
expelled from school for it.
Cyberbullying.
Correct.
Cyber harassment, bullying, whatever word we want to use,
Yeah.
all has the same effect, but there is no legal avenue to
Sure.
hold adults to this standard.
So the problem that we've run into is the opinion that public employees perhaps should have to take some of it more than the average person, for lack of a better term, and that as public employees, if someone has a legal right to voice their opposition to the work that we perform on a daily basis. So a private citizen, technically, I think that's what the concern that's come up, that a private citizen has more rights and I guess more protections than a public employee, where if it was a private citizen and some of this stuff was happening, we could take legal avenues and most likely make an arrest for some of these situations. But it's just not applying to public sector workers. We've had it reviewed by the as Mr. Reyna said, the Attorney General's office, we've had it reviewed by state police, and it just doesn't apply.
Yeah, I'm not gonna litigate it. I'll ask you later. Thank you, Leah.
Thank you very much, Leah, for all of that. Please.
That should definitely be part of our request to our legislators. This is.
Yeah, well, it's
really
on-
has gotten
it's
out of
on there,
hand.
but I must say the
We just have to word it
the
differently.
clean way that it's on our
Right.
on our list of priorities doesn't quite convey the gravity that you expressed.
Well, perhaps
for
when
us.
we send it upstate, we can send a couple of samples. To prove,
Yeah.
I know we have
Yeah.
reams.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, that might be helpful.
yeah. If you could state your name for the record.
Good evening. As I'm listening under this, Mary McDowell, 94 Point Road. And as I'm listening to the discussion, regarding what's going on, not only in Portsmouth, but throughout the country and the world, and how people are treating each other, I couldn't help but think of, like, tonight, what happened tonight. And I'm thinking that tomorrow you could have those emails even more tomorrow. You could have those, and you're going to go down to Clemens, you're going to go throughout the town, and people are angry. They're going to be angry because of what happened tonight. And those kinds of things, they're not justified, but they help promote that kind of behavior, I think. And I do think that we, or you as a council, town administrator, can maybe take steps to avoid some situations. And tonight was a perfect example. You know, we have signs throughout the town. We have people at the landfill giving out flyers. We have another hot issue with the Rotary at Clemens. We knew that this was going to be a big issue. Just like the first time with the transfer station issue, we knew that was going to be a big issue. We know that this this arena is not going to be adequate. And I think planning for that a little bit better would have been much better for tonight. And I think it would promote better feelings in the town, because I don't know, I look at it as, you knew this, why didn't you plan accordingly? So that people wouldn't be upset like this. So I'm not justifying any of it, because it's uncalled for. It's not the way a civil society should act. But we as adults have to try our best to do what is right too. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. If there's no further comment, we can,
I would move that we place all items that were presented on the December 11th agenda to be presented to our state legislature. We just need to give it, I think, a title to the workplace harassment. Look into legislation to strengthen cyberbullying statutes to extend to employees,
public
employees, something to that effect. Make a motion that we add that to the motion
That's
of
the title of that item, which is
of
already.
moving all these items to the legislative
Right,
agenda,
which is
along
already-
with
Yeah.
the 2023 items.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Moving on to new business 8 timeline, proposed 24-25 budget. Mr. Rayner.
Calendars as presented, it captures all the highlights of the budget process. Obviously, we've started this already. But it takes you all the way through the budget reviews in April, followed by the adoption of the provisional budget and then the public hearing in June. Anticipated that we would turn the budget over to the state on the 25th of June.
And this is informational. I don't know that we needed a motion or vote on that. Thank you very much, Mr. Rayner. New business 9, request approval of amendment to the Prudence Island Ferry Dock and Water Infrastructure Improvement Project. Mr. Rayner.
Yes, this is a federal grant being administered by DOT. It's for work being done by the ferry operator at both sides of the ferry. Obviously at Prudence and the Bristol side, more money has been made available. And the quotes that they receive for the work that's already been authorized have come in lower so they can get more work done. All this amendment does is it makes more money available to do more work for the project.
Move that we approve the amendment and allow the town solicitor and the town council president to sign.
Seconded.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. New business number 10. This I think we moved, actually.
We did not move this one.
No,
We did not move this
no.
one.
This is for the approval of doing some night work on all portions of East Main Road.
Right.
Which they always do anyway, so.
So this would be, technically, there's 2 separate items. There's the
includes-
roundabout section. And then there's repaving of East Main Road section. DOT has decided to try and conflate the 2 of them, make them 2 projects. I'm assuming 1 project. But
It is one as presented to us.
right,
This does tie into the entire roundabout East Main Road pavement improvement. I think 99% of the people that are interested in the entire project have left the building for the night. I guess my suggestion would be to continue this to the
Yeah.
November 30th meeting.
I believe that that
Yep.
makes sense. If I
Yep.
could get a motion to move this to the December 11th.
I'll
meeting.
make the motion as long as, Mr. Reese gets a quick second if he wants to say something about it.
Sure.
Unless you want to come back on Thursday night, Dave.
No, I just had one quick question.
Sure.
Just
get a second, Will.
David.
Can I just get a second for that motion?
Seconded.
Thank you. Go ahead,
David
Mr.
Reese, 66 Freeborn and 42 Turnpike.
Thank you, Mr. Reese.
No, I just was wondering, what jurisdiction does the town have between state and private land? There's no town land involved at all. There's no town or area involved. You're talking between the state and private land.
Town has
So-
jurisdiction over noise ordinances.
Well, the private taxpayer is the one that's going to be inconvenienced. What I've got there is rental property, and they're going to be building this roundabout right out in front of my window. 2 floors.
If there's a roundabout to be built.
If they're doing anything right there, I'm just saying, this is, so the private taxpayer is going to be inconvenienced with the town's blessing. That's what's happening. There's no town land at all. The only thing you're talking about is noise, but there's lights. They set up the gigantic lights. They're running all night. It's nothing to do with noise. So what ordinance does the town possess as a legal function to even control that or be asked that? To me, that doesn't seem to be something that is in your jurisdiction. If they're gonna make noise out in front of my property, they gotta come and talk to me, not to you. What am I gonna do? Call them and they say, well, the town said it's all right? You don't have any right to do that. Especially I've got rental property and you're gonna be, right where they're gonna be working is right out in front of the house.
So if I may, the letter we have indicates.
Well, it's
that-
something to ponder anyway.
Right. Well, what I'm saying is the letter is asking if the town has a preference. So I don't know that we need to have any kind of special authority to have preference, but assuming we
Does it
have,
take away the rights of the landowner?
well, assuming.
See,
we
I
have-
mean, you can't
assuming
do
we have
that.
No preference, just for the sake of discussion. If the town says we have no preference, the DOT could do.
You'd have to
night work.
state it's not within your jurisdiction, I
Well,
would
they
think.
could do, they're not asking. us
Because
to-
they're asking you,
they're asking
request
us-
for approval.
They're asking our opinion.
Yeah,
We
they're
always have
asking
no
you, they're
jurisdiction
asking,
to
but
do
I'd
that.
asking you to approve night work on their road. What if you said no? That's what it says. It says request approval for night work.
It also says council could.
Or only in
restrict night
certain
work
areas.
Certain areas, certain
Yeah, yeah.
residential neighborhoods, so we could say. we
But
don't
there's
want night work here,
nothing
there.
much to do with the town. The only thing it would have to go through, I would think, would be the police department who might be controlling traffic there.
Well, it actually does have something to do with the town because although they're working on land that we don't own, the noise they are making.
Now, I'm just
is-
saying, it isn't just noise.
Right.
They
and
set up
lights.
those giant
Yeah.
towers with the lights on them and work
But
all
I don't know if
night.
we have- do
And
we
they
have night-
still might not even be above
Yeah,
the noise limit.
right.
When they're,
That's-
when
the
it's,
noise is
when
what
we're
we
up at the
control.
water board,
Yeah,
when we're,
noise is what we have some say over.
yeah,
I'm
that's
not sure
all.
if we have say about nighttime
pollution.
lights
Light
or.
pollution, I don't know.
Because even when
there-
they're
is there a
flushing,
zoning
even
ordinance?
when, as a water board member, they're
Yeah.
flushing mains and stuff.
Oh, right.
You know that's going on in front of
Right,
your
right, right.
house.
Right, we have,
So
We
I
have
just
jurisdiction over
think it's a
zoning.
little out of bounds for what they're asking. Something to think about. Because you can't make decisions on something you don't own.
Thank you. Ms. Hitchin? Did you?
Are we gonna move forward and talk about it or continue?
I think we're.
We
gonna
already made a
continue.
motion to
Yeah.
continue it, but Mr. Reese
Yeah.
said. was
Yeah,
saying it, so
that's right.
Just, all right.
I have a comment, if I could, that would affect Ms. Hitchens. I think it'd be beneficial to ask the question now for answers on Thursday night or whatever, or this, yeah. The way it's written here, RIDOT is requesting approval about permitting night work in certain areas. Do you know specific areas? Are they telling you where they want to do this night work, or is this kind of?
I was planning to explain that a little more in depth.
Okay, so you have information to pass on.
I do have
So
information.
we can discuss it.
So let's, we
Yeah.
have, I think before we get
Well,
much
this
more
one-
discussion
right.
on this though, because we're having a discussion about a topic that
Yeah.
we believe a lot more folks want to be
Right.
hearing.
Sure,
So. we
but
should-
I think
we
this
should
next question would be helpful to have the answer to, because I've been victim of the the backup alarms at 4 in the morning. And once you put that vehicle into drive, you got to go past R and it goes beep at X amount of dBs. But if you could look into the OSHA regulations, there's another way around backup alarms. And it is to employ a flagger. So if you're 4 o'clock in the morning, instead of waking people up, you could
Sounds like
actually-
we ought to be discussing this all on Thursday.
Well, she should see, she can verify if that's actually something that can be done.
Flagger instead of the
Backup
beeping.
alarms, yes.
To be continued in discussion on Thursday,
Correct.
assuming that this vote passes. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Motion passes. And
Ms.
new
Hitch, where you
business.
going?
Yeah,
You're up again.
you are indeed. Request approval to submit application for the 2024 Rhode Island DEM Recreation and Acquisition Grant and to prioritize rank all applications. We have 3 in priority order items.
Yes, we can see.
Oh, I don't,
yes.
yeah, probably.
Yeah.
3? I only see 2.
ABC. The Portsmouth Community Playground.
Oh. That's not on the original letter.
It's the 3 items are the senior center outside facilities.
Community playground.
Right.
Okay.
It's, yeah, so the in priority order, it's the Portsmouth Senior Center. I'm sorry, Portsmouth Senior Living Center Outdoor Fitness Facility, the Elmhurst Park Recreation Facilities improvements, and the Portsmouth Community Playground.
So it's that wonderful time of year again where I have put together 2 of the 3 Rhode Island DEM grant applications. And the first one I'll quickly discuss is for the Portsmouth Senior Center Living Outdoor Fitness Facility. This will be located at 110 Bristol Ferry Road for the 54 affordable plus 6 market rate units. We ran into some issues where the baseball field was ended up being too big of a recreation space due to the septic system. So we now are still required to put in a recreation facility. So we came up with the idea of an outdoor fitness circuit. It could be used for anybody for 13 years up. So I have put together a schematic for an outdoor fitness circuit equipment with a shaded canopy, ground surfacing, 10 parking spaces, benches, and some additional lighting to coincide with the lighting that has already been approved by the planning board. This total project cost is $194,000. DEM grants will match this for over $154,000. We will have to do a 20% match, which is just under $40,000. The second application I have prepared is for Elmhurst Park Records that DEM is looking for. The total project for this totals to over $269,000. We would have to match 20% of that, which is a little over $53,000. I just learned a little over 2 weeks ago that a third application is coming in and is on the docket, which I don't have the completed application in my hands, but you have it on your agenda, which is for the Four Hearts Playground on Turnpike Ave. As you know, Kateri has been really looking for money, and she's quite close to gaining the final money for the completion of that playground, but she just is short. So she is requesting, I want to say about $45,000 from DEM for that playground. So due to due to the town having more than one DEM application, we or you as the council have to rank them in order. I have temporarily put in what I think how they should be ranked, but it's up to you folks how you want to do it.
Thank you very much. If I may just quickly weigh in, I agree with the order you've suggested.
Thank you.
In terms of combining need as well as the ability to get these things funded, but willing to hear from Mr. Hamilton. Anything? No?
You know, they're, all three are very worthwhile
Yes,
projects.
Right.
That's right.
All three things that we've been trying to
Right.
finalize and get finished over the
If-
past
if
few years.
I might ask, what is the effect of ranking them?
The effect, well, when we rank them, the DEM review committee, will give them points. When we rank them first, they'll get 5 points. Second, will get 3 points. The last one will get 1 point. Any other additional applications get 0 points. So,
So there's some.
There-
chance
there
that
is some
a
chance.
low-ranked project won't be funded by.
correct, correct.
There's only $2 million in the pot.
Right,
Yeah.
So
right.
there's a lot of projects out there. They may, even with the 5 points, if you put the most expensive project up there, they might not take that one and
That's
give it
right.
to the 3.1 because it fits better in their budget.
Right, yeah, that would make sense.
And as we saw years ago, which I continually harp on, that we didn't have pickleball in our projects and didn't get any grants, and everybody else had pickleball and got projects.
I really tried to write the application, writing it as how the review committee would want to see it, and that it meets all age brackets, all equity, ability, athletic levels. Pickleball does that. The fitness center would be outside. It would be available to anyone over the age of 13.
It's right next to a projected, living accommodation for elderly.
Correct. That would be like the hub of, I mean, I'd want to live there.
Yeah. Well, again.
It'd be kind of fun.
Tell older people to remain active.
Yes.
So that's
Mhm.
great.
You have a ways to go.
Yeah. Not that far away.
I mean, they're all great projects. It
Yeah.
would be awesome to see them all funded, but the
Right.
the pickleball courts being at a town park property, which we don't have very many of, seem to have the broadest reach and impact across all ages and abilities. I mean, I think that the outdoor fitness facility, the senior center is wonderful. Would love to see it built, but it feels like it would have a much lower capacity than Elmhurst Park. So I would put Elmhurst Park as number one.
If I may, the logic behind that, I agree with your reasoning there, but the logic behind that was when we were discussing the senior center housing project. There was a lot of discussion regarding the ball field that's there. And we made a commitment that we would keep some recreation there. The idea originally was to keep the ballpark there. The slope of the land and the size of the septic field just makes that cost prohibitive. It just won't fit. And even if we could, it would cost millions of dollars. So we're working on getting ball fields somewhere else. I hope to be able to report to the council here shortly on the success of that initiative. But we're still on the hook to get some kind of recreation on that property. So that's why we ranked it number one.
Recreation takes a lot of
Yeah, I mean,
connotations.
walking trail,
Walking trail with some simple bluestone.
Yep.
lawn bowling.
I personally, I'll take a swing at it. I would put Elmhurst first, community playground second, and then the senior living fitness third.
I would second that.
But with the caveat that we're probably only gonna get one. If we're lucky.
I think the strategy of putting the cheapest one second is probably actually smart. And then maybe they'll fund the first one and then be like, yeah, second one's pretty cheap, so who knows? I don't know. I hate to
Or they
speculate,
might skip the first one because it's so expensive and give the next two.
but if that was a motion, I will second it.
That is my motion.
Do we have a motion and a second?
Discussion.
Mr. Gleason.
Will this come back again next year? Will
No.
we get another charge? This is a one-time deal?
This has been
every
going
year.
on for about 3 years now. This was a bond, a state bond that Rhode Island residents voted on, maybe in 2019. And this is the third year and the last year that this money is eligible until it becomes a bond issue again.
It's typically every 4
We-
years.
Okay.
And Leah, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the bond measure passed like overwhelmingly in the state.
That's
right?
correct.
So it has pretty strong support.
Sure. I only ask because I'm gonna vote no on this only because I'm liaison to the senior center and I think I owe my priorities to them first. So, though I do support where we're headed with this thing.
You're gonna vote no?
Yes,
Okay.
Just on the rankings.
Just on the.
Just
ranking.
ranking.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
ranking only.
It's like if there was something on there for the dog park, I'd have to say no.
Not a good comparison, but I would.
Well, you never know. There's senior dogs out there. They might want both.
Not mine.
Look at us.
Yeah. Any further discussion? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes. A motion passes 4-1. With Mr. Gleason.
So if you're
in the-
following
in the
along,
negative.
the ranking was
BAC.
BCA.
OBCA.
BCA. I need that.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
New business number 12, Mr. Woodhead, request approval to enter into an agreement to accommodate Algonquin Gas Transmission LLC's usage of 8181 square feet beyond their easement.
Council Vice President, members of the council, Algonquin Gas Transmission at LLC Enbridge is undertaking the upgrades for the current gas main extension on the East Concord River Bridge from Little Compton over to their substation on Old Mill Lane. As part of the project, the government is seeking authorization to engage into an agreement with the town of Portsmouth for utilization of 8,181 square feet outside the designated easement on Assessors Plat 68 Lot 3, that's town property, serving as a temporary workspace. They only need it for 4 months when they're doing the directional drilling, but they want to have it 18 months so they can put everything back to original. Because they have to wait for the seed to grow, because they want to start in April and they want to be done by November 1st, but they still need a couple more months, so the springtime to get everything growing back in our work area. This will only be serve as a temporary workspace, crucial to the project. I've included in the map delineating the proposed area of the easement for your reference. So I respectfully request town council approve to enter into an agreement to accommodate Algonquin Gas Transmission LLC usage of 8,181 square feet beyond the easement of Assessors Plat 68 Lot 3.
So they only had the equipment there for 4 months, but they want to be able to
Right.
put it back to
Right,
existing.
Graded, seated, et cetera.
Yes.
I make a motion that we approve. This is for replacement of the pipeline underneath the Sconneck River.
Correct. That's all this is for.
There's a motion
Second.
and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Hang on.
But I think people may have comments.
Oh, okay. I haven't called the nays yet, so
So there
technically.
you go. No, we haven't voted on it.
Still up.
I have a question about this project. And that is, my understanding, and I read this thing and looked at the chart, is that we're going to transfer some of town property or an easement on town property to Algonquin Gas. And the question is, does this exceed 2 acres in size?
So as I understand it, it's 8,100 square feet, so that's no,
8,100
but
square
also,
feet. Okay, that wasn't.
also, it's not a transfer. We're allowing use of, it's not a transfer.
Look-
of
Look
right.
like you're rerouting the pipeline. No. You're not?
Mr. Woodhead, if you could address that.
Sure. So Algonquin Gas already has their pipeline in it. They already have an existing easement through our property. They are not rerouting the gas line anywhere other than on their easement. They just looking for a temporary easement to set up their drill and stuff like that on our property, or maybe their, no objection.
Yeah, it looks like they're moving the pipeline about 4 feet in one direction.
Correct, because they're gonna abandon the other pipeline that's in place and they're gonna put the new pipeline in place.
Right.
Hi, good evening. My name's Steve McDonald. I live at 124 Old Mill Lane. The only thing I'd like to ask is that they're gonna have to do their work, and I understand that. I just would like you to make sure that they do it in a manner that doesn't affect whatever neighbors may be in that area, especially noise after normal working hours. That is a issue that we have elsewhere with this particular company. And I would hate to see it happen somewhere else. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Brian, they don't specify here when they're going to be doing this drilling during.
It's gonna be during the day.
It's gonna be during the day, so they will not be doing any drilling at night.
No, not, I'll double check, but I'm pretty sure there's no drilling at night.
Okay,
It's only during the day. Yeah. I'll double check.
okay, yeah, thanks.
Any further comment?
No.
All those opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
New business 13. Request approval for funds not to exceed 115,000 to create a separate women's facility at the fire station. If I might add, it's about time,
Thank you.
Chief.
Is that it?
As far as I'm concerned, but please, by all means.
Members of the council, good evening. Here before you, asking that you approve funding for some renovations for the station. As you had mentioned, they've long been needed. The town paid for at least one study I'm aware of in 2015, in which plans were designed and women's facilities, locker room, bathroom facilities were incorporated. And that didn't come to fruition. We are now at a position where we are in the process of hiring, and it is very likely that we will be making an offer of employment to a female firefighter. And if not now, it will happen. And we really need to have separate facilities. I did this quickly because of the situation we're in right now, but reaching out to contractors we normally use in a rough plan, nothing really cast in stone. I came up with those figures that you have before you, a total of about 95,000. I did a lot of research on lockers, and that is just in and of itself a nightmare. So I'm asking that you fund it to a level not to exceed $115,000. And then we obviously have to go through our normal procurement processes to get the work completed.
I move we approve.
It is a motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
And the second,
Please,
Mr. Gleason.
just so I can ask one question. Are we putting Teddy's Beach to bed with this motion? Are we done investigating that?
I think Mr. Alpizzi did that.
We're at an impasse, as I put in the memo. The bottom line is, DOT wants us to sign a purchase and sale agreement for the property before we can do any, we're not even allowed to enter the property before we can do any of the studies, analyze the stability of the bridge, so on and so forth. And we're saying, no, we're not going to sign a purchase and sale agreement until we can find out the condition of the property. So it is dormant. I have been talking to them the last couple of weeks. And right now, although they're not actively shopping the property, their plan is to pursue other options for that property right now.
Thank you, Mr. Rayner.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Chief. Moving on to correspondence.
Move to receive and place on file.
Second.
Motion to place on file. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Future meetings, November 30th,
6 p.m.
6 PM at the high school for the two items we moved there.
Three items.
Three, sorry, three.
Four.
Four.
Four items.
Four, do I hear five?
No,
It's four.
well, unless something comes up in the next
It's true.
8 hours.
Right.
And then December 11th, our regularly scheduled meetings, December 11th. The meeting for the 26th has been canceled, January 8th and January 27th.
I just have a question on December 11th. Are we still going to do that as well at the high school?
No, we just had that
Okay,
I don't think we need to.
as a
Okay.
placeholder.
all right.
Yeah, I don't think we need to.
But the time is 6 PM for the legislative priorities. So it
Yes.
starts at 6, not 7, on December 11th.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Motion to adjourn.
There's a note
Seconded.
to adjourn with a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We are adjourned.
Take them down, pass me.